Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Farming Without the Bank podcast. Thank you guys for being here again. All right, today we are going to talk about marketing. Because I have so many clients doing direct-to-consumer beef, they are probably selling some kind of farm equipment or manufacturing something. It is amazing how often I talk to my farmers and ranchers just about marketing and what they can be doing and what I'm doing and TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and wherever that they are. And so I am not the expert in that matter. I have people. And my people are with me today. Kevin and Mike are my marketing team. And so if you have listened to the Without the Bank podcast a few weeks ago, you will have heard them as well. But I really wanted to bring them back on the farming side and really talk about the farming aspect of it, how they can do that, what that looks like. Do you need to spend money? How do you grow your audience? All that good stuff. And so thank you again, Kevin and Mike, for coming back. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, anytime you need us.
All right. So I'm just going to clarify right away. If you are watching on YouTube, obviously it's going to be a little bit easier to see who's talking. But Kevin does the marketing of placing Facebook ad, TikTok ads, or Google ads, YouTube stuff. Mike makes me look really pretty, and he does some Facebook posting for me. Neither one of these men respond to you on Facebook or on TikTok or on Instagram. That is me. I am doing the talking. And so don't feel like, oh, you're just talking to Mary Jo's marketing people. No. They're like putting stuff there, but I am then talking to everybody and messaging everybody. But looking cohesive is also very, very important. And so let's just start with the biggest question that I have. I have a direct-to-consumer business, Mary Jo, where I'm selling beef directly to the consumer. I want to talk to your ad people or your marketing people and have them run ads so that I can have more consumers. Kevin, let's start with you. What would you say to somebody that came to you and had a small direct-to-consumer business where, we maybe have 100 clients, 50 clients. We're just getting started. We want to reach the community. Should we be buying an ad for you? What should we be doing on Facebook to help ourselves? What do you say?
Well, I think it kind of depends on what capacity they have. In my business and in the clients that I help, I usually look for people like yourself that have a national audience rather than a local audience. Local audiences can just be a little bit harder. It's not that it can't be done. It's just that it's a smaller audience. There's not a lot of people to reach. So there's a lot less ad spend. So it's not usually, it depends on the budget that they have. It may not necessarily be a contract or a position that I want to take on because there just isn't enough spend there. And when you put my minimum cost on top of what they want to spend, the percentage that they're paying for that traffic is a lot more to that. But like on selling beef directly to the consumer, if they have a large enough volume of beef to sell, they could go out regionally or they could go out nationally, depending on what it is. I mean, one case of that is lobster sales out of Maine. I know that is a huge market, direct to consumer, coming from the lobster fishermen. And all those different lobster websites are actually tied in with the fishermen that are doing that. Then that they're focused on their businesses to sell it as kind of a broker type of thing. And that would be where if there was like a co-op of beef producers that wanted to sell directly to consumer, them teaming up across the country or different things like that, that might be a better scenario rather than just trying to dive into it themselves.
Okay, so what if I am determined that I'm going to run ads locally, though? I'm not going to listen to what you just said, and I'm still going to run ads locally. and I should not hire you because you're going to be too expensive. So 2 questions there. Somebody else is going to come in and say, I can do it for you. Kevin doesn't want to do it because he's too expensive, but I can do it for you cheaper. And I can, and I will be just as good. And 2, I'm going to just do it on my own then. What are some tips to kind of get over both of those hurdles and things to look for?
One of the things that you want to make sure you do first, one is, well, of course, to have a website, a working website where you can actually, if you're selling it through the website, being able to take the money from the website. One of the easy ways that Mike's team uses to do that is a system called WordPress. So the site is built on WordPress. And then on most of his develops, I actually do some of the e-commerce development on that to be able to take to show the products in the website and then to take the money. That's usually where I take over on his side and build out a plugin, an extension of WordPress called WooCommerce in order to take those payments. And the payments are handled through a separate third party like PayPal, Stripe, or it could be a merchant account with your bank or whatever. So you need to have some way to take the payments on your website. You need some way to present your products, which is WooCommerce, and then the overall site itself. The easiest way, the least cost, is what we think is WordPress on a hosting.
And so, what if I want to advertise though? What if I'm going to buy an ad? Kevin, what if I'm going to buy an ad I'm going to advertise on Facebook. I don't care what you say. I'm going to go up. I'm going to put an ad. And I have referred several people to you and they all have the same issue. They're doing these ads themselves and they're targeting their people, but those people aren't the ones that are getting reached. We're reaching a whole different demographic, even though those are my target.
Yeah,
what do I have to do? What do I need to look for?
The easiest way that Facebook provides you is what's called a boosted post. So basically, when you go to your Facebook page on the left-hand side, if you're an administrator, you say, or you go to an individual post to say, hey, I want to boost this post. And what's going to happen with that is Facebook is basically going to just push it out to anybody and everybody that they can. And it's better than it used to be. You have some ability to do some targeting based on a geographic area. So you could say within a 15-mile radius of our town or different things like that, which direct to consumer for beef, I mean, unless they're vegetarians in the town, beef, that they might be your audience. When you're looking at a specific service, like let's say a beauty salon or something like that, you don't really want to target men necessarily if your whole clientele is based around women. And so you kind of want to know your demographics. So anything you can know about what age range works best for whatever product or service you're trying to sell. The other thing that you want to make sure you have some kind of analytics installed, so you can actually see when traffic is coming to your website, what they're actually doing, and whether it's coming in through an organic search or it's coming in directly that they typed in your website address because they may have heard a radio ad or something like that, or they came in through your paid ads. You know kind of what they're doing, how long they're staying on the site on average, what percentage is leaving, what we call a bounce rate. So they landed on the page and then they left the site. We can see what the abandonment there is. And then if you're actually selling something from your website and you have e-commerce configured in Google Analytics, we can actually see which of those visitors, how much value came in from each of those different traffic sources. And then when we look at that, we can actually look at what's the e-commerce conversion rate. So that means of this 100 visitors came in and 20 of them bought, I have a 20% conversion rate. That's a very high conversion rate. We normally see about 1 to 5%. 5% is an incredible website conversion rate for people buying their products. And then the last thing there would be, we can actually, as it runs for a while, we can look at the Google Analytics, and that's why it's important to see how long it takes for them from their first visit that they landed on the website till they actually bought something from your website. And then that gives us kind of an idea as far as, what time do we have to work with to expect results when we're running ads or we're sending an email or different things like that to bring traffic to the website.
So if I place an ad, Did anybody else feel a little bit like me, like that all went, like 80% of that went over my head? This is why I have Kevin. So if this is what I've seen with people that I've referred to you, Kevin, is they're running an ad and they're not getting the audience they want. And every single time that happens, you tell me the exact same thing. There's like a little toggle switch that you can turn something. No, you can turn something on and off, so it's not reaching everybody and it's actually narrowing that demographic.
Oh, yeah. So by default, probably in the last year, Facebook changed it so that the default is that it's going to do what they call expand your audience. So you have the ability on Facebook to choose different interests that people may have. You also still have some demographic targeting and behavior targeting. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, there used to be all kinds of information, consumer information from your credit card statements, your DMV, your tax reports, as far as how much your house was valued at and stuff. And then we had the whole, oh my God, they know everything about me. And we have all the congressional hearings with Facebook and Twitter and Google and everything. And so all of that between all the different ad platforms has kind of been peeled back, and we have less and less targeting than we used to. But there's still a lot out there on Facebook. There's still a lot that you can target. The problem is if you put in those interests, you put in those behaviors that are your ideal demographic, and then you hit that toggle or leave that toggle on and not turn it off, it's going to expand on that. And basically it takes an audience that would be, let's say you're on a local level, maybe 15,000, 30,000 people. Once you turn that on, you're now going out to an audience of 2 million people. And it's beyond your local audience, even though you're saying it's your local audience.
So that is like the biggest thing, is if you are doing it on your own and you're really trying to get into that demographic, you have everything set up, but that one little toggle switch is on. And so turn that off, and then you will stay more local. You will reach more of the people that you're trying to reach. But like if there is a tip that I give everybody, it is that tip, even though I don't know what I'm talking about. It is that tip, because everybody I've sent to you tells me the same thing. And they're like, well, I'm trying to reach them. I have it all set up on my own, but I'm not reaching those people. And every single time you've met with any of those people I've sent you, it's all the same thing. And so can you do it on your own? Yes. But you need to have the analytics. I did it on my own for a long time, and I sucked at it. I did not reach the people I needed. I did not have the analytics I needed. I didn't have everything in place on the back end, which is another thing that, in addition to making me pretty, like Mike makes the website pretty and all that stuff, but he's also creating the website along with Kevin doing the analytics of saying, okay, we need a shopping cart. And this is like, the shopping cart is expensive to build. And on the farm to table stuff, there are already people out there that have some of those things that you could maybe plug into a website. But at the end of the day, you need to have a website that looks good. Because that, in my opinion, that is the face of your business, and a logo that looks good. And please, like, maybe somebody out there is going to tell me I'm wrong, but please don't go to Fiverr and your best friend who like can do a little bit of graphic design to have your logo designed. I have redone mine 3 times, maybe 4. And Mike just redid them all like a year ago. Mike just redid my websites a year ago because they didn't look as good as they could have. They weren't as user-friendly as they could have been. And food pictures are important. So Mike, can you talk to us a little bit about, now I know you've done logos for farmers, and you've done some of this stuff. So can you talk a little bit about why it is so important to have a good business name, a good logo, and a good website?
Yeah. And I've actually had both scenarios. Like, I've had the people that, they put the word out on the street that they're selling beef or whatever, and just word of mouth, they they blaze through it, and they don't necessarily need to do more than that. And in those cases, yeah, I probably wouldn't worry about it. If you wanted to throw a post on Facebook, boost it, whatever, that's probably more than enough. Then I've had the other extreme where, they have I don't know how many head, but a lot of head of cattle that they're going to slaughter, and they're going to sell the beef and do whatever. And in those cases, presentation matters a lot more, because they're going to be selling it in larger quantities. They're going to try to distribute it through some retail stores or some meat markets or whatever it is. So at that point, having a storefront, which is kind of your website, or some kind of a brand that adds overall presentation and credibility to the overall look and feel of it, is super important. Now, Mary Jo mentioned it, but don't just jump into something for the sake of jumping into something, because you want it to look quality and you want it to look credible, but you also want it to be something you love, so you don't have to keep redoing it over and over again. So if you invest in getting it done right the first time, chances are you're going to love it for the long term, and it'll get you off on the right foot, and it'll get you there faster. Because that's one of the things that with a lot of people, they try to do it on the cheap right away. Well, after 3, 4, 5, 6 times, you really didn't save any money, but you certainly lost a lot of time along the way.
And I can speak volumes to that, because I had, when I didn't have a lot of money to start. And so now all of a sudden I'm like, okay, well, I just have this, and we'll do that later, and we'll do that later. Well, later I've already built my brand along the way, and that was the face of it. And so it would be nice to just do it correctly, because I've redone it 4 times. Do you think it saved me any money? No, you're not going to spend $50 to have Mike do a logo, and you don't want to spend $50 to have Mike do a logo, right? And I've sent clients to Mike as well, and they're like, oh my gosh, he got it right away, because he knows what to ask. It's not just, oh, you know what, I sell beef direct to consumers, so we need to have something. Well, something to what? Something to represent what? Something to say, all right, this is one thing I hadn't thought of, Mike, that I'm sure you go through your clients with, is my farming, and I'm going to use my farming without the bank logo. I have those crop lines in that logo. Well, let me tell you, my friends, that does not work well for embroidery. In fact, it's awful for embroidery. And so if you want to have that logo on something for somebody to see it and recognize it, if you want it landscaped versus portrait, all of those things, what is it going to go on? What do you want to do with it long term? Think about that, so when somebody like Mike does the logo for you, it's correct the first time.
Yeah, I actually had an extreme case of this about a year ago, where a husband and wife came to me, and they were involved in a lot of things. They were selling beef. They had some kind of a ranch service. They had a trucking component to their farm. They were doing custom combining. They came to me and they're like, hey, we want a logo. And I'm like, but for what? Because you've got 5 businesses. So in their case, what we ended up doing is we ended up doing a family of brands. So we did 5 logos, but they were all very closely connected, and they looked like siblings when it came to the logo presentation. So now when they go out and do their thing, they don't necessarily look like a jack of all trades and a master of none. They look like they have a very well organized, clean presentation. And then to your point, Mary Jo, yeah, when we create these, I create them so that they can be used across the board. So whether it's vinyl stickers, embroidery, if you want it on some kind of a Carhartt jacket or a hat, or it needs to be something that can consistently be replicated.
And the colors all be uniform. That's one thing that I learned from Mike, is I'm like, oh, well, I don't care what color it is. As long as it looks like farming, we're good. And now everything that is on Without the Bank correlates on Farming Without the Bank. And I frankly don't care, right? But that's Mike's job to care and to brand it so that when they see that, they automatically think of you. When you I can't think of you would know a logo, Mike, as an example for that. Like when you see it, you know it.
Basically, when you think about the colors that associate to a brand, like you think about a Coca-Cola, McDonald's, or even like an O'Reilly's or something like that, you typically just know the color because subliminally you've learned it over time, and it's just been one of those things that it just sinks into your brain. So when it comes to branding, not only your logo but all the elements and supporting assets that go with it. So even as far as like the imagery that we use on your stuff, Mary Jo, I look to find things that are consistently within that color palette, so that visually it just kind of burns itself into people's brains, so that they remember that when they see that color, that's farming without the bank, that's wealth without the bank, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. And you will see like even like my Without the Bank logo and my Mary Jo Irmen logo, because I too have this family sort of logos. Farming Without the Bank has thrown it all off, but they are very, very, Mike has made them very similar. So if you see them, it looks very cohesive and it looks like it's supposed to be there. Not something I used to do. And the other thing that I think is funny is people go, oh, well, I don't want to pay Mike for what he does. And I used to do it myself, right? Because graphic artists are not inexpensive. And a lot of people do not see the value of looking professional, right? And so if your beef looks like a kindergartner did the package, I may question the quality of the beef, right? But if it looks all nice and it looks professional, geez, maybe I'll pay more for it. That too is a psychological thing, right? Why are we paying for iPhones? Now I'm going to pick on these two because they're iPhone users. Why are we paying for iPhones? Because I am a Samsung person and I like it and it's not as expensive. I just went and bought myself some little like cordless Bluetooth like AirPods, but they're not AirPods. It's a different brand. They were $60. They work just as well as an AirPod, I would imagine. I don't even know what I'm missing. I'm just fine. But if we want to make money because we have this beef business and this farm business or this manufacturing business, do we want it to look professional? Do we want to have the professional website? Do we want to make sure that our shopping cart is working, that they can get the information? And then to take people like Kevin and Mike and put their brains together and have them help you figure out, well, what else can we do for marketing that we're not doing that will get people to pay attention? Because that's their job. If your job is to feed cattle and raise beef, your job is not to market and not to know marketing. You hire the people that do that stuff.
I think one of the other things, Mary Jo, also is to go out there and sell it directly to the consumer, knocking on doors, going to farmers markets, advertising within the grocery store or whatever stores will have your flyers up and stuff. And then talking to those people, those first buyers that you have, so you have a much better understanding of your audience that's buying your product and what they wanted. If they want to sell up for, maybe they would sign up for a quarterly subscription for beef or something like that. But you're not going to know that. You're going to waste a lot of money. That your pricing might be wrong. You might have shipping things that are holding them back or different things like that. And you wouldn't know that unless you actually went out there, got the customers yourself and say, hey, I'm actually looking at doing this and selling it online. Would you be interested in joining our beef co-op or whatever to get some beef on a quarterly basis or something like that?
And I think some of it too is, okay, start with the website, start with the logo. I think that's where you start. Your first call is not Kevin. Your first call is Mike. I need the logo. I need the website. Then we can call Kevin. But I think that a lot of that too, Kevin, is, and maybe, add some stuff to this, but we don't need to pay for marketing. We need to just market. We need to just post on Facebook. We need to post on TikTok. We need to do the stuff. Kevin can run as many ads and take as much money from you as you want to give him. But at the end of the day, if we're not interacting with the people on Facebook and showing them our cows and showing them our packages of beef and letting people know that, like, I have a client that they don't ever have beef on hand. Like, it is sold before it's ever butchered. But she is constantly on Facebook sharing pictures of the family and all that other stuff. Is there a magic number? Kevin and Mike, you can answer this too, maybe. A magic number of how many times a day do we need to post? Do we need to worry about ticking people off because we're posting too much?
I'll let Kevin correct me if I'm wrong, but to add on to what you said, then to answer the question, I mean, I tell clients all the time that they want to skip all the steps and jump right to Kevin because they think it's easier to just run the paid ads and then I'm just guaranteed all this success. And it's like, A, that's not how that works, but B, there's a lot of steps in between Mike and Kevin that you should check all those boxes and try to do as many of those things as you can before you get to a Kevin, because 9 times out of 10, when you get to Kevin, Kevin's going to ask you if you've done any of those things anyway and probably make that recommendation. So to try to jump from A to Z is probably not the answer, but to go through all those steps. And as far as, just the organic side and what to pace it at when you're advertising on social media, I'd just start out with a couple, 3-4 times a week. And if it's responding well, post more. If it's not responding, post less, maybe try a different day, but just try to see kind of what the audience is responding to. In most cases, you probably have a network of like-minded people where when you post, you're going to get interaction, which that's exactly what you want. And if that's enough to move the ball forward and help you move your product or sell your service, it might be good enough for year one.
And it's interaction. This is my biggest complaint about social media. People, it's called social media for a reason. Be social. If somebody posts and asks a question, respond. Don't just post stuff and then never go back to your Facebook and look to see if people are asking questions or commenting or whatever. You're not going to get, you want the interaction. And what has the most likes? What are people looking for? Like, I have had many clients tell me, oh, they love it when the kids are in there, right? When the kids are with the cattle or whatever it is that you're doing, certain things are going to drum things up. If you're at a farmer's market, why aren't you posting a picture of that? If you're working cattle, why aren't you posting a picture or doing video? Whatever it is, do that. It's just like I have a client that has, he manufactures this bale feeder. So like the bale drops down and instead of just putting it in the round feeder, the bale is dropping down and there's not as much waste in that bale. And so where are you at a show? Post that you're at that show. Do you have the video? Do you have pictures of clients when you drop one off and sell one? Do you have pictures? Are you consistent? Now, I remember when I started working with you, Mike, you're like, oh my gosh, you're posting a lot on Facebook. Like, that's way more than Facebook recommends. And you're like, but it's working, so keep doing it. My theory is if I post it in the morning, you're probably not going to see it at 9 o'clock at night. So I'm not going to post the same thing, but I'm going to give you updates of what I'm doing today. And if you don't like me, then leave, because I don't need you this is another thing I think people get hung up on is, oh, I have so many likes. Well, what do we have? Like 20,000 likes on Farming Without the Bank, but I have about, maybe 40 people that interact. Like, ooh, I look like a big shot. But you don't have all those interactions, and that's what matters. Are people sharing it? Right. Anything else to add, Kevin?
Yeah, we talked about analytics, and it's kind of like what you say about infinite banking. They need to know their numbers. And there's a lot of businesses that, one, either don't have any kind of analytics or any kind of tracking installed in their website, and numbers confuse them or whatever. But the numbers are what actually drives your business. If you're uncomfortable with numbers, then you really need to get someone in your business that is comfortable with numbers, that wants that's what they live for, that's what they enjoy, and are tracking those numbers. And that's what we regularly look at. I mean, we're looking at it with you on a weekly basis, but I'm looking at them throughout the day, every day, seeing what we're doing across all the different client accounts that I work with, because I know that, okay, these are, after I'm working with a client with a year or two, I know these are our good months, these are our bad months, and I'm always striving to beat the year before, and always have those numbers hopefully going up, of course, with COVID and all the different other things going on every day, as well as changes to the ad accounts and the different social media platforms every week. Those numbers change outside of our control as well, but we do everything we can to keep everything, all the wheels on the bus, and the boat's still floating. So, yeah.
And I think here's a big one, and I don't know if you have anything to add to this, Kevin, but a lot of people will say, well, boy, Facebook was great a year or two ago. Yeah. I agree. Facebook was awesome. But today, that's not so much the case. And so you've got iOS changes, which mean we can no longer target Apple users. So basically, our list is Samsung users, people that are not on Apple, correct?
That's not completely correct. So we're still targeting Apple users. It's just that we're not seeing how our ads performing. And Facebook is not able to optimize our campaign so that they perform the best for Apple users anymore. And really, in the long term, it's not going to be an Apple problem. It's going to be across the board problem. And that's where a lot of things are changing on the paid media side, on the paid traffic of running ads on Facebook and Google and YouTube and TikTok and all this, is because we're going to have less and less tracking available. And so what's happening is the landscape is changing back to more of a brand awareness type of campaigns is what we're going to be focused on in the future, because we're not going to be able to measure it down to this is a paid traffic conversion, a paid traffic sale. And really, we try to, for years, we've been trying to steer our clients away from it, and it takes time for people to accept it. But anytime we're running paid ads, we know that increases our organic search traffic. It increases our direct traffic and stuff. And you can see those different interactions that lead to a sale if you have the analytics installed in Google Analytics, because it'll actually show you each of those touch points if they're not currently an Apple user that has privacy turned on. That still is going away. But what we're doing now is we're looking at numbers where it's our overall sales, and then what is our cost of goods, and what is our cost of the services in order to do the marketing. We take those expenses out and we look at the overall sale versus how much we spent. And then we look at that percentage rather than just looking at what we call return on ad spend, saying we spent this amount on ads, this is the revenue that came in. We're looking at a holistic view of the business and how marketing overall impacted the business when we look at those numbers.
And it changes every week. Oh my gosh. I just can't even, there are times where Kevin will be like, well, I shut that ad off this morning and I'm going to restart it and I'm going to change one word and I'm going to, it is a full-time job. And when people think, oh, I can just do that myself, you can, but you're not going to get the results of, oh my gosh, I'm seeing people every day. Even to put a retargeting pixel on the website. You guys listening, this was the most frustrating thing in the world to me. I knew about this retargeting pixel, but I don't know about anything else, right? I just knew what it was supposed to do, but it literally took me about 5 years to find Mike, who understood what the heck I was talking about. And when you go onto my page and then I follow you around for weeks on end, it's because they're doing their job with the retargeting of it. And that's done on purpose for marketing. And so you can get mad. I'm glad that Samsung allows people to target me, because when I look up something and then I go on Facebook and I see all these cool companies with all these products that Google did not show me, I'm very thankful. I turned it off at one point and I put it back on within 24 hours because I was seeing the lamest ads ever. If Facebook is going to show me ads regardless, I want to see stuff I want to see, right? And so it's really like, to me, those ads are beneficial, but you're going to get targeted with ads. I don't care. If you're listening, you're getting targeted with ads. And if they're listening to me on my phone and they're targeting me that way, well, then by golly, I obviously needed it. So thank you again for letting me know that I have more places to buy from. But it is like, I really look at it and go, there's no way that I could scale my business the way I have without people that knew what they were doing. And so you can do what you want locally, but I just look at my direct-to-consumer people and say, okay, if we don't want to be national and we want to stay local, do we really need to pay somebody like Kevin, or do we just need to get our name out there and post more and do more in the community and, and maybe go to somebody like Mike and say, hey, I have a client in Louisiana and I love it. She has this big, huge banner because they live on like some busy highway. Big, huge banner that they sell beef, and her husband's like, I think at one point she told me her husband's all embarrassed about it. But I'm like, what a great idea, right? It's your property. All you need is the banner. You don't, Yep. But again, the banner better look cohesive to everything else and have your logo on it so we're branding people's brains every single time they drive by.
Yeah, I was going to say, the only other thing is, when you start your business or you're doing some new venture, when you sign up for all these accounts, just sign up for the ones you're going to use and be consistent with. Because if you signed up for every account there possibly is and they're just dead accounts and there's no traffic there, people are going to go looking and they're not going to see activity. They're going to think you shut down, disappeared, or you're not engaged or whatever it is. Right. So if you stick to, commit to whatever platform it is, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and you drive people to that active platform, you'll also have a lot better luck than trying to be in 10 different places and failing at all of them.
Oh gosh, yes, absolutely. I go to people's Facebook pages because I am a Facebook user mostly. And so I go to their Facebook page, I'm like, oh my gosh. Or try to keep the name consistent. Like, I'm not perfect just because I did what Mike said and I started all these accounts and then I lost passwords and then I hired really bad people that like to control the stuff they shouldn't have. So make sure you're hiring honest people as well. And so now all of a sudden I'm like Mary Jo Irmen over here and I'm MJ Irmen over here and I'm farming without the bank over here. It's a nightmare for y'all to try to find me. So if you're going to start an account, try to be consistent because it's going to help people. The only thing I have going for me is you can type in Mary Jo Irmen and find that anywhere. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be local, if I'm on Instagram, I want that to be the same username as TikTok. And I go on to TikTok and I'm like, what? Why are y'all doing that with your names? Like, that's not even normal. That's not even a name. It's some kind of wording. It's a sentence. It's whatever. Are you really? Like, do you have a business name? Put it under your business name. Why are you not using that? I don't know why on TikTok I see that a lot, but it drives me insane. So I'm like, well, are you somebody I follow on Facebook? I wouldn't even know.
Well, TikTok didn't start out as a platform for advertising or a business accounts and different things like that before. It mainly started as a personal video site.
But you can
depending on when they created it, that was there. But
right. And so I'm seeing a lot of new people that have they might have 4 likes per video, Yeah. And so even with, my stuff is the same, but I was going to change my stuff. And then it's like, you're going to lose all your followers and have to start over, So a lot of people are doing backup accounts because TikTok is monitoring, shutting accounts down, whatever they're doing. I don't know. But it is I agree. Pick a platform. My husband, who I love dearly, he has a Facebook page that he no longer likes to use. And so now it looks like he's not in business anymore. I'm like, great. who's going to reach out to you if you haven't posted in 2 years? Nobody. You need to post, and you need to be social, and you need to talk to people, or just don't start it at all. Right. Okay. Okay, I hope that helped answer some of your questions, but I really, truly believe start posting, be consistent on your own, and then go from there. Well, and if you're going to do something, have your logo, have your website, start posting, then be consistent, and then go to a Kevin and see what can we do to add this to, add to it, to reach more people. I really liked the co-op idea of doing it that way. If you are going to mail beef, then you're national, right? And then Kevin can look out and go national. But if you're going to stay local, I really just don't see any huge value to paying somebody to do that for you. And if you're going to do it on your own, please do it with a good logo and good packaging and good pictures. Oh my gosh. Food pictures are super important to hire a professional photographer. And I had a little candy business. I don't know if you guys knew that, but I had a little candy business before I did Farming Without the Bank. And I would make like caramel chocolate covered apples and pretzels and
that's right.
Yeah, and I would dip wine bottles and I did all kinds of chocolate stuff. And I tried to take pictures of on my own, and again I sucked at that. But I had to hire a professional, and it's insane what goes into food pictures. So you might want to learn how to take some food pictures or some product pictures or something because it's not that pictures sell for sure. Do you have anything to add, Mike? You're nodding away like crazy over there.
No, I've actually been involved with a lot of food photography stuff, and there's like there's a do-it-yourself model, which is not recommended. Then there's a section above that where you kind of fake it to make it, and you can pass. Then there's the extreme version where they use like Elmer's glue and like cereal bowls, and like that's the real deal. But you don't have to go that far. But just so you know, like when you're seeing these delicious meals and different things on like national campaign commercials, chances are that stuff's not even edible, but it's done in a way to make it look awesome. So. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mike, if somebody wants to have a logo, website, visit with you, where do they go?
They can go, I'm all over social media, but they can find me at cyberdogsmarketing.com, and that's CYBERDOGZ marketing.com, or they can email me at mike@cyberdogsmarketing.com.
Okay, or you can email me and I can get you there too. Kevin?
That works too.
Email Mike. You should be talking to Mike first, and Mike's kind of my... I don't want to say pimp, but I would say broker.
Yeah. Email me and I'll connect you with Kevin.
Yes, and he will see if you're ready to even go to Kevin right. At that point.
Yeah, he's kind of my filter. Mm-hmm. And it's usually it works best when he gets everything teed up and then says, "Yep, they're ready to go with ads." And then I join that call and we put it out there and see what you want to do.
And they're a great team, you guys. Seriously, like it has the two of these two people have completely changed my business and tripled it to where it was before I met them. So they know what they're doing. There is no question asked. They are the professionals in this setting. So Mike has a podcast as well, right? Mike, you have a podcast.
I do. It's called Brand Retro.
Brand Retro. Okay, so you can listen to that. I'm sure there's information on there that you can get. But if you need anything and you don't want to message them, you can message me, Mary Jo at Without the Bank. If you have specific questions that maybe we could do another podcast on, you can also email me that at Mary Jo Without the Bank. If you've not gotten your books yet, go to farmingwithoutthebank.com. You can grab your farming and life book there. Otherwise, you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next podcast.